We're going to a different part of the world than we've been to before today. We're going to Canada. And this is a traditional tale from all the way up in the northern snowy reaches of Canada. Have you ever seen a goose? I'm sure lots of you have. Maybe not up close, but you may have seen them in the sky. They usually make a lot of noise and they're very big birds. A lot of them don't actually live in our country all year round. For humans, it's not so bad. There are very few places in the world that are too hot or too cold for us to live in, but that's not the case with birds. Quite often, countries that they spend the summer in get far too cold for them in the winter, and then they have to move on to places like here. And that's what happens in our story today. Our story is about a goose. An old wild goose, to be precise. Him and his gaggle live in the summer up in Canada in the beautiful meadows and the farmland. They live in a place where the grass is high and lush and the water through the stream is clear to drink, and there's reeds to lay their eggs in, and there's trees to shelter under in the sunshine. And life is wonderful. Now this particular goose is known for his honk, and he does that all the time to keep everybody in order. But then comes autumn, and the weather starts to turn a bit colder, and then his honk comes in very useful indeed. Because as the temperature starts to drop, you hear his honk, honk, honk. The dandelions then know it's time to let go of their seeds into the air. The farmer hears a honk, 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 and he hears that it's time for him to gather in his harvest into the barns. The grain goes to market and the apples and the pumpkins stay in the barn for overwinter. This happens year in, year out. Everybody waits for the honk, honk, honk of the geese as he rallies round his gaggle and they set off into the sky in that great big arrow towards the south. But one year he decides, I'm a bit fed up with this routine. Everybody listens to my honk to wait for winter to come. Maybe it's my honk that brings winter in the first place. Ooh, yeah. That would be good, wouldn't it? It's all down to me. If I don't honk and set off south, then maybe winter wouldn't come. Maybe it's me going that brings winter. The robin stays here all year round. He brags about it. This year I'm going to stay here. And then I can keep summer here all year round. Now, he didn't tell anybody about this idea, he just kept it to himself. And it got to the time of year where the temperature starts to drop and people were waiting out and animals were listening out and plants were waiting for the honk, honk, honk. But it never came. It's a bit strange. The dandelion was holding on to her seeds, waiting to let them go in the wind. The farmer was thinking, it's getting a bit chilly. I'm sure it must be nearly time for my harvest to come in. The rest of the gaggle were waiting for him to set off south. But he didn't. Well, in the end, they could wait no longer. They weren't having none of this proud business stuff. So they got themselves a new leader and they set off southwards. And the goose stood there as happy as anything with his bright orange boots and his thick white feather coat and his beautiful golden trumpet beak, and he just waited. I'll show them. If I don't go, if I don't honk, then winter won't come. But the temperature did start to fall. And the daylight did start to get less and less, and the winds did start to blow. And one morning a gust of wind went and the dandelion seeds set off across the sky. And the farmer looked out and said, my crops are going to spoil if I don't get them in, so I'm just going to get them in anyway. And he chopped his wood, and he gathered his pumpkins and his apples, and he sent his grain off to market. And the little stream waited and waited to hear the honk of the goose, but she couldn't wait any longer, and she built a roof of ice over her top to protect her fishes and her voles and her creatures that lived within. And in fact, even the goose started to get a little colder. No, silly. It's going to be fine, it's going to be fine. I haven't honked, so winter can't possibly come. Until he woke up one morning and his bright orange boots were frozen to the grass. And his warm coat of feathers didn't keep him warm anymore. And he looked around him and he realised he was all on his own and winter had come. And he just sobbed. How could I have been so proud and stupid to think that I could stop winter from coming? And now I'm all on my own and everybody's left me. The sun wasn't as strong at this time of the year, but she did feel sorry for the old goose. So she mustered up as much strength as she could and she melted the ice around his feet. Slowly he ruffled his feathers and he stretched out his wings. And he realised this was not time for taking your time, so he hurriedly set off. And as he flapped his wings and he ran across the grass, he slowly raised up into the air and let out the biggest honk, honk, honk that he possibly could. And as he set off across the sky, he looked down and, the strangest of things. The stream had ice on it, and the farmer had put all his things in the barn, and the seeds had all scattered, and winter had come without him honking at all. Now, how had that happened? So why don't you look out for some geese near you? See if you can see the arrow that flies across the sky. Maybe you could give them a honk or two. Who's got the best honk, do you think?